Our European holiday has seen France, it's visited Italy, but it wouldn't be complete without a trip to jolly old England. And there's few tracks larger in notoriety in the UK than Silverstone. This Grand Prix circuit has been home to Formula One for most of its life, as well as hosted multiple endurance races. Today's race will be much shorter than those, but it could be just as brutal. And we'll see who keeps a stiff upper lip through it all as we get ready to watch round 11 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group's Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the LMP1 and LMP2 classes is Bill Soups On. Keeping us up on the GTE class is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, GSRC returns to Silverstone for the second time in 2 days. In case anyone missed yesterday's SRS race, though, what's this track got in store for us?
Of course, Joe, Silverstone, the home of British motor racing. Originally a Royal Air Force base during World War II in 1943, motor racing took place here in 1948. Of course, as brought up before, the home of the British Grand Prix, sportscar racing has made a major impact with current races such as the European Le Mans Series and the World Endurance Championship. To give you the fantasy what it's like to take on this historic and famous course of Silverstone, let us go on board for a GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Silverstone. Coming down to Copse, it's going to be difficult to make passes into here. This is a high commitment corner, but the good news is there's lots of paved runoff to the outside in case you overshoot it. Just try not to lose it if you run over the AstroTurf. From there, you need to switch sides quickly to set up for the Maggots-Beckett sequence. This will be mostly single file in this section as the corners tighten with each change of direction. Because it leads onto the hangar straight, the final run through Chapel requires you to get back on the power as soon as you know the car will stick. Drivers will be hungry for a chance to pass, so hesitating on the throttle will put you at a severe disadvantage. The draft isn't super big in these cars, and every little bit of momentum helps. Finally, you reach Stowe, and you may see someone try to outbrake their opponent here. But the rise mid-corner makes it tough to keep the car from washing out and also makes it pretty blind. You don't have much time before you're chucking it into Vale. This is another popular overtaking spot, but it's very slow, and the change of direction can often lead to car contact when someone gets overambitious. This chicane bleeds directly into Club, where a little patience will be required in getting your foot down. The paved section to the outside does allow you to swing wide, just be sure to get back on track before it runs out. Up next is the Abbey chicane, where drivers are also likely to try to send one up the inside. This is an interesting switchback though, because the second half opens up a lot more, and you should be able to power through it. From out of there, you'll need a little lift to make it through Bridge, and then comes the awkward entry into Priory. Passes can sometimes happen here, but miscommunication is very easy because someone could defend late. You've got a short burst before Brooklands, which is one of the slowest corners on the track. This is another one where you might see a variety of lines because of how it flows directly into Luffield. Whichever way you take it, you definitely want to square off the exit of this hairpin so that you can get to the throttle sooner. From there, Woodcote is easily flat out, and hopefully you've now finished a lap around Silverstone. You see a lap around Silverstone as the sun comes out above, but before we take a glance at what qualifying has in store, Bill always has his usual points update. It's towards the end of the season, Bill, so I imagine we're getting a pretty good picture now.
Yeah, only 5 LMP1s here. 3 of those are on the chart. DeVries, Syandra, and Mike Young. But Deep Freeze, Jason DeVries, this is really his championship to lose. He's got himself a nice 26-point lead and 22 pocket in his pocket. Hey, you know, Tinsey is not here. Robert, Bob the Blade, and Daniel Gralsey are not here. Might be a good opportunity for Mark Wilson or Lionel Duprat maybe to pick themselves up a podium. Let's go down and look at the LMP2s. Well, it's one of the McGarveys, Scott McGarvey, up on front. He's got 4 points over Jason Girard, so McGarvey's got the advantage in the points. Girard has always had the best when it came to on-track speed. We'll see how that plays out today. You can see those other 3 drivers behind him. Billy Smith picks up his second win recently. Let's go down and look at the GTE standings now. And again, there is the brother, Stephen McGarvey, sitting up there. But again, only 3 points up on Paul Darling. Now, Paul is not here. Last I checked, Omai is not here today, but he does have those 26 pocket points to burn. So he's not going to get hurt too bad Bradley Haley has been fast, but he sits down there in third. The guy that has been really quick, fall into position, Alex Simonic. He's won half the races, but it's really been, he's been about as reliable as gas station sushi, I guess, if you want to put it that way, as he sits 50 points back. Dean Mole rounding out the overlay. Let's go to the GT-AM standings, and there you can see Paul Lindsay up in front. What's interesting about that, Lindsay has been doing really well. I think he sits, let me take a quick look, sits 8th in the points. He's going to keep that up. He's going to lose his amateur status as he's up a few points ahead of Kevin Santana, who was leading this class earlier. Let's go down and look at the team championships finally. And this is unusual because usually SRN Motorsports Black, usually they pride themselves of having no class leaders, but that's not the case now with McGarvey sitting at the top of the charts there. They also have Gralty and Huff rounding that out. Those guys seem to be pretty close, but remember, a 28-point gap in the points in the team championship is relatively small because you got 3 drivers scoring for you. So PMC Carbon still with a legitimate stance to get that championship. Joe?
Thanks for that, Bill. And if you've never watched this series before, well, let's get you up to speed on what these races entail. Of course, this is round 11, as I mentioned, but this is one of their sprint races, 60 minutes in length here today. They have limited the fuel on these cars compared to what they use in real life, so even though these setups are open, they have one expected pit stop for all 3 classes. They have an incident cap as well. If you run over 24 incidents in this race, you will be disqualified. Obviously, they want things to stay clean out there. They have no spare car either, so if you run into any sort of damage, you've got to come in and get repaired. Can't hop into a fresh new car. So there is incentive to keep it clean, not just out on the track, but also on the bodywork of your car. Now, Taylor, we always talk about the keys to the race. Well, today they're at Silverstone. This is a lot twistier than last week. What's going to get them to the finish line first out here?
Well, of course, the number one thing is going to be keeping it on the track here, especially going into turn 1 Cops Corner. A lot of issues can happen, especially going on at the start of the race. Drivers are going to need to keep focused and aware of what's going on around them. Another thing, of course, is one of the biggest factors is lap traffic. If we look at the time charts right now, these LMP2 cars and LMP1 cars will catch up to the GTE field, at least the tail end of it, in just a matter of laps. So drivers are going to need to keep their eyes alert and focused throughout the duration of this race. And then finally, of course, pit stop strategies. 60-minute race. These drivers are going to be determining when is the right time for them to come in and make that pit stop in order to come in and be able to either leapfrog their competition or maybe save a little bit of fuel and pit later on in the race to try and keep track position to the best of their ability. So, Joe, this is going to be a very interesting race, especially when we're closing in to the final few races left in the season.
Absolutely. 7 minutes are left in qualifying at the moment. It is the last chance qualifying, which is mixed class. Only 3 cars out there, though, right now. So these guys getting a much easier opportunity to get a clean lap here in this qualifying, considering usually there's a few more cars in this out there. Leif Peterson, of course, for the GTEs, trying to push himself up the order. Now, Bill, you were talking about some of the interesting stats that we've got going on in a few of these classes, and you mentioned the lack of drivers out here in the LMP1s. One thing that I was noticing is Mike Young's been doing pretty good this season. He's racked up 4 podiums, but the big thing for me in that, 3 of those 4 are second place. You have to wonder, could this be one of his best chances if disaster strikes for the fast guys to get his first win?
Yeah, and I guess that would have to be the case. Andrew sits on the pole right now with DeVries right behind him. Young has been competitive all season long. In fact, it's been coming on for a while, doing really, really well. If you're still listening out there, John Ulmer, if you hear his chance to come in and jump in here real quick, if you want to join in, any of you LMP1 drivers, only 5 here today, chance for a top 5 for sure. I agree with that one. What I think is interesting, if we look down there at the LMP2s and the GTEs, you got the big names again, Gerard on the pole and Alex Simonic. Those guys have been fast. It's a matter of whether they can bring it home, especially in the case for Simonic.
Yeah, certainly. And there's some weird stuff going on down in the GTEs as well, Taylor, because it's not just Simonic being so far down in the points, but I'm looking at the wins for McGarvey and Darling. The last win out of both of them that we had, and these are the 2 that are highest in points right now, was at round 6. We're in round 11 right now. That's quite a stretch.
Yes, indeed. But one of the biggest things that both McGarvey and Darling have been having is consistency, making sure that they finish within the top 5 or on the podium each and every race that they started. Unlike Simonic, who's been having a little bit of difficulty. Yes, he's been winning races left and right just about every track we go to, but then there's also those times to where he'll finish outside the podium, or worse, end up in a serious incident that takes him out of the race for the duration of the rest of the race. So that's what the biggest issue, why Simonic is still winning all these races, but yet also showing why he's still so low in the points, and why we see drivers like McGarvey and Darling holding on to the top 2 spots here.
And, you know, Taylor, the guy we've been hyping down there is Dallas Pataska, but honestly, he's been struggling a bit. Really doesn't have even a podium yet. He's only racing a handful of races, but it could be his day today.
I think so too. Currently, right now, as we look, he is currently P3 on the qualifying charts. And looking at those lap times, though, it's going to look like, unless something happens to Simonic, we're going to be looking at possibly another Simonic win possibly here today, unless Haley and Pataska have a little bit something extra in the fuel tank for him in order to maybe pull off an upset victory here today at Silverstone.
Yeah, currently 4:10 separating Haley and Simonic. Haley's actually out there right now. He usually comes in for the last chance qualifying. Just real life keeps him away from the track until this point. And you can see Haley at the moment is got himself just about ready to finish this lap. Let's see if he can close in on those 4/10. And it looks like he does not improve this time by. He's running out of opportunities to do so. But Haley himself, who has kind of been the bridesmaid in a lot of recent championships, is still in the hunt mathematically, but he's only taken 1 win so far this season. That was at Imola 2 rounds ago. Chris Pence out there right now in the HPDs, the LMP2 class, trying to get his lap improved. He and Alex Ellis have been putting laps in. Actually, Alex Ellis just wrecked out of his qualifying, so he might be done for the day. He's going to try and get back out there one more time.
You talked about Haley. Yes, indeed. He has a win, and before that, well, that was 2 races ago with the win. He's followed that up coming off of 2nd place, so he's been hot lately. The Comet has got to pick it up, though, so he's looking to close the gap.
Yep, certainly. Chris Pence still doesn't have a lap time in, it looks like, unfortunately. So he's got, let's see, he should be able to get this one in and then maybe 1 more after that. And then after that, he has run out of laps with 2.5 left to go on the clock. Now, in the past, these drivers have run this circuit with the historic layout in this series, but the classes were different. This is the first season they're running the LMP1s in there. So I'm curious to see how this will play out, Taylor, in terms of the dynamic with this layout of the track. It's much sharper here at places like Vale and this chicane and Abbey.
Yes, indeed, and that's where it's going to be a lot of interesting things, especially with our LMP1 cars. You know, there's so much downforce to these cars. They're able to just whip through those corners, no problem at all, compared to with a GT car, where it has to slow down a little bit more to make it through some of those corners, such as Vale. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how the LMP1 and 2 cars are able to negotiate traffic when it comes to it, especially through those smaller, tighter sections here at Silverstone.
This is one of those slower, tighter sections right here. Chris Pence working his way around Brooklands now. Tiny little lockup as he enters the corner. Luffield be the last place where he has to slow the car down, and he goes way wide. You might not be on a hot lap, and he spins the tires for extra measure coming off the corner, flat out through Woodcote. I highly doubt this will be a very good lap from him. A 39.8 is going to put him at the tail end, Charlie, of the LMP2s for now. He does cross in time to get this last final hot lap in. Going to follow him around right now. Ellis is also out there. I think he is on a hot lap. I see Leif Peterson coming around in GTE. He's actually sitting 4th in GTE right now. So Peterson could prove to be someone to watch out for. 30 seconds to go, so we'll get this one and 1 more. Let's see if this lap will be his fastest. He's got a 41.7, and it's a 41.8, just a 10th off. Ellis about halfway through the lap, coming up to the Abbey chicane. Hard to not look steady coming into there, Bill.
Yeah, now this is a name that could be somebody to give these guys a run for their money. This guy's quick to get into a qualifying run. The field is pretty big. He does not. Oh my goodness, that's not the racing line you want to take there either.
Yeah, his few laps that he's put in, he's had a lot of off tracks here. This is not looking good for Alex. Comes around Luffield. It's at least looking better than what Chris Pence did last time by. Oh!
Well,
he abandons it.
That's the way to get to pit lane there.
Pence is going to be next across. He pulls off much better off of Luffield that time through. 39.8 last time by. Let's see, he's about 5 seconds off the next car. 37.9. So he gets closer, but he's still quite a ways back, unfortunately.
Hey, Joe, one thing I want to talk about right quick is the temperature we got going on right now. It's quite cold out there, 67 degrees. And, of course, with that wind coming from the southeast, that's going to affect some of the aerodynamics as well for these cars, especially going down Hanger Straight. So that's going to be something else to keep in mind. And, of course, this could heat up just a little bit as the day goes on.
All right, so qualifying is effectively over. We'll get to the grid in a second here. Just a minute left here on the clock, as looks like Pence was getting a little bit more practice. And got a note from one of our drivers who tended to be a little fast, and actually one of our winners this season, Brandon Guarcia. He usually drives the Audi, one of the few drivers that drives the Audi in the LMP1s, but unfortunately it looks like he got injured playing hockey the other night. So he's not able to be here to race today to bump that field up to 6. Wish you the best, Brandon. Hope you get back out here soon. Let's go to that starting grid. On the pole, we are going to have Cy Andra kick it off with Jason DeVries flanking him in the LMP1s. Mike Young will start in 3rd. Mark Wilson will be next to him in 4th on that 2nd row. 3rd row will be Lionel Duprat, the last of our LMP1s. Bill, this is the quickest I've probably handed it off to you.
3 previous winners go 1, 2, 3 here. Jason Gerard, Billy Smith, and Scott McGarvey. Keep an eye on newcomer Scott Corbin. This is just his 2nd race. He's sitting 4th outside of McGarvey. Veteran Carter Kundinger's behind him. Sheldon Rosenbaum sitting 6th in class. Veteran Ross Booth behind him. Kevin O'Keefe is back with us. James Stacy. Alex Ellis, we saw him try to put in that qualifying time. It's going to be well down the order. David Sockrider and Chris Pence rounds out the LMP2s. Taylor?
Starting on the pole position in your GTE class will be Alex Simonik. Alongside him will be Bradley Haley in 2nd position in class. Dallas Bataska will start in 3rd position in class, followed by Leif Peterson in 4th. Stephen McGarvey will start in the 5th position, followed by Ryan Huff in 6th. Dean Moll and Kevin Santano will start in the 7th and 8th position, followed by Robert Kansian and Paul Lindsay. Your points leader in GTE, so keep an eye on. Dave Hill will start in the 29th position overall, followed by Shane Hunter, and Dale Green and Mark Kradowski will start 31st and 32nd. Matt Owens and Robert Schlenka will start 33rd and 34th, and Tim McLeish will start 35th with no qualifying time.
35 cars to kick it off here in round 11 as they get up on the grid behind the roof pace car. We will have a rolling start as usual here with mixed class racing, so we've got a little bit of time. Let's go to that traditional question. We'll start with Bill on the predictions for today.
I'm not picking a winner in the LMP1s, but I am going to pick Lionel Duprat, finding himself a podium. Keep an eye out for him at that 18 machine. Get down to the LMP2s. I will pick a winner here because this is a little bit interesting. Gerard's the fastest on pole with Billy Smith, the veteran. I like Scott McGarvey from 3rd. Watch for a mistake from Gerard McGarvey to steal this one. Let's go to the GTEs and see what Taylor has to say.
I don't know about a winner because I have a feeling it might be Simonik, but a driver who may sneak by with a podium today, as like you were saying, Bill, I'm going to go with Leif Peterson to maybe sneak into that top 3 podium position.
I watched the Cowboys play yesterday. This is Dallas's night.
As we've got our director chiming in here, him being from Lifton, Texas for quite a while. The pace car now peels away from the line, and all the field follows behind him as they work their way down to Copse. This will be a fascinating one. Could actually quite affect how things shape up for the end of this season. Again, after this race, only 3 rounds left to go. So including today, 4 races left total. time is running out if drivers want to get in on the championship hunt, so we might see a few people eliminated soon. We do have those drop weeks to worry about. Some drivers have some do not, including 2 of our top in the LMP2 class, Bill. I noticed were 0 on the drop weeks already.
Yeah, there's no room for mistakes there. You know, you're talking about that small LMP1 class. As far as lap traffic goes, I guess for them, it's not going to make much difference because the LMP2s and the GTEs are still pretty big fields. But I guess for the rest of the field, it does kind of make a difference because at least those guys only have 5 of those prototypes to worry about coming up.
They come through so fast. It'll make life a little bit nicer, I think, Taylor.
Yes, indeed, especially for our GT drivers. They'll be able to just have a little bit of an extra time to breathe a little bit longer before they come back around. So a nice little bonus time for these GTE drivers to not have to worry about the LMP1 drivers tonight.
To give you an idea. Oh, go ahead.
As a back marker, this is an interesting track because there's a lot of open spaces, especially the Grand Prix section, the configuration we're racing on today. But, Joe, there's a lot of technical sections, too, where guys just have to wait. The early part of this, you know, when you're going through Maggots and Beckers, they got to wait. And then when you get to the back half of this course, that's just brutal. I hate that part, starting at Abbey. Actually, not at Abbey. Starting at, like, 14 at Priory. You just wait till I get around Woodcote, and then you can make a move.
Well, and you bring up a good point as well with the Maggots and Beckett sequence. It's not only that it's a technical section, but it's left-right combinations. And we've seen any place where you have to cross across the track, that can cause miscommunication between the classes.
Yes, indeed. We've seen that time and time again in many other racing series, especially in endurance series, where drivers just cannot seem to communicate properly, to where one small mistake from one driver can cause a major incident for not just one, but several other drivers. I remember watching some races here not too long ago where just a small mistake from one driver can nearly take out almost several, if not over 10 cars in a single lap.
Have to watch out for that on the first lap around here as the sun comes back out. Glad to have that. That's going to heat the track up a little bit more. 85 degrees, but it kind of amazes me how accurately they tend to portray some of these tracks here in iRacing, because the UK known for having a little bit unpredictable weather and also very gray weather. Every time I come here to watch a race here on iRacing, it seems like we get lots of cloud cover here at Silverstone. We'll see how it plays out as the race goes on, though, because the roof pace car now peels in, gives control to our pole sitter, Cy Andra, as he backs up the 4 other cars. Green flag is out here for round 11. He's off like a shot. Before they even get to the first corner, they are all single file. One of the most calm starts I think we've seen here in the LMP1, so let's head to the LMP2s.
From the left-hand side of the track, it's a good jump. Billy Smith tucks in behind him. Scott McGarvey follows suit as well. The newcomer, Scott Corbin, in 5th. Carter Cumdinger in 5th. They race 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 the way they qualified. Taylor?
Coming to the line now, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 GTs. Nose to tail, Alex Simonic gets a great stunt as we go into Cobbs. Pataska has to check up just a little bit to get out of the back end of Bradley Haley. This is going to bring Leif Peterson in the Porsche as they make their way down to the Maggots and Beckett sections, Joe.
Manages to hold him off. Same thing happened to Ryan Huff there. Almost got into back. I think it was either in Peterson or McGarvey. One or the other. He went way wide to avoid action. Still getting themselves single file, though, back here in the GTs with so many more cars. As they come onto the hangar straight, they are now single file. We switch up to the LMP1s as they already work their... Oh, go ahead.
Let's take a, if we can get a quick replay. Just happened to Scott Corbin. There was a really close battle going through. Not sure if we can get a replay on the first lap or not. He's able to keep it going, but man, it was exciting. He got contact with Booth and Rosenhall. Watch this one.
Yep, he was a little bit under attack when we saw him live there. Let's see what happened. Down into Vale, side by side. Red car comes up the inside. Ooh, who was that he touched there?
I believe that was going through. I believe that might have been, I think, Cundinger going underneath him, or Rosenbaum.
Looks like it was Ellis who got into him.
It was Ellis, yes.
So we head back up front. Andra leads De Vries, and it's by almost a second already. Mike Young not losing chase, though. He is also within a second of deep freeze for the moment. The question is, how long can he hold on? We are very, very young in this 60-minute race. Got a little battle for 8th here in the LMP2 class. Scott Corbin ahead of Rutgers Kev as they come onto the hanger straight. Oh, Kevin going a little wide through Chapel there. That's certainly not going to help him. In fact, you can see does not get a chance to attack as they approach Stowe.
I think Corbin, I expect him to pull away. Remember, he was a faster qualifier up there. He got that bump from Ellis. And talk about Ellis. He is up 5 spots. Remember, he had that bad qualifying run? He's moving now.
Ooh, Sock Rider under attack from James Stacy. A little bit behind these guys down into Vale, but Stacy not able to take advantage of it. And as this has been happening, GTE has got to fight up towards the front.
Yes, indeed. Stephen McGarvey, Leif Peterson are right now battling it out as they're making the run towards Vale. They did have Ryan Huff pulling in right behind, but got a little bit loose coming out of the Maggot-Beckett section of the track. So right now it's now a two-car battle between the two. Leif Peterson and that Porsche is doing the best he can to try to hold off the Ferrari of McGarvey.
Let's see as we ride on board with McGarvey. Still staying close behind Peterson, just keeping them within reach. Now come through Bridge. Priory sometimes offering passing chances, but certainly not going to be this time as they start to slowly lose touch on Pataska.
If you go a couple of cars back to Kevin Santana and Paul Lindsay, it's the 903 Ferrari and the 70 Ferrari. These are the two battling in the GTE AM Points Championship. They're battling it nose to tail right now as they're going down towards Woodcote, down to front straightaway. Lindsay all over the back bumper of that green Ferrari of Santana. As they make their way to front straight, these two have been battling for the entire couple of laps that we've been racing.
We've seen these two fight for AM championships for a while now, but Santana's way wide coming through Copse. You can see as he collects the car, it's easy pickings for Paul Lindsay, who now moves himself up into 8th.
Yeah, Lindsay made an excellent pass to get by Santana after that mistake. Santana's going to try to get back onto the back bumper as they get ready to come down the hanger straight. Out of Chapel they go. This is a good time to utilize a little bit of slipstream if you get close enough to the car in front of you to maybe set up for a pass as you get ready to head into Stowe. He looks to the inside, shows his nose, but decides to duck back into line. Through Stowe they go again. Nice smooth transition, not wanting to go too far offline, hits the curb at the right part to set the corner up for Vale.
Just keeping him in check. The draft was not enough there, but we've seen one mistake can certainly hand that spot over very easily. In fact, he's closed in through Club. You can sometimes outbrake cars heading into Abbey. But I don't think Santana's quite close enough for it this time. A little bit off the apex for Paul Lindsay. Doesn't lose him too much time.
No, he actually pulls away just a little bit more now. So they now go into Prairie right now and now make the run towards Bridge.
Right on board with Santana, number 903.
James Stacy Stacy just had a spin. It looked like it was self-induced. Looked like corner number 1. I don't know if we need to go there or not. He was running well back in the LMP2s.
I'm taking a look at that myself now. Looks like the AstroTurf got him on the exit of the corner, which is interesting. Something to keep in mind, I guess, if the cars start pushing it. Let's head back up to the front. Syondra and DeVries have not really been battling too hard. They are still within 1 second of one another, and they've dropped Young at this point, who is now 3 seconds back from our top 2.
It's a good time to check in on them, because here they come up on the back of Robert Cancion here as they start to work their way through some lap traffic.
It's even holding off to the left side, seeing that they're coming. Oh, but Andra lets him through. Yeah. What happened there?
Oh, my goodness. Then he almost gets in the back of Matt Owens.
Comes back on it. I wonder if Andra just did not charge the battery enough. I know we've talked about that some in the post-race, and I believe Andra said that's one thing that he's still working on figuring out between the two of them. Whatever the case, Jason DeVries with a good job to get himself up to the top spot.
would like to drill down on the charging the battery, but I honestly have no idea how to do that.
Got a bit of a battle on the mid-pack in the LMP2s. Carter Kundinger has Alex Ellis closing in on him. His qualifying wasn't that great. Maybe he just didn't have a good setup for that because, well, he's climbed well up the order. He is now 5th in his class, appropriate for the number 5 car, and slowly stalking Kundinger to see if he can move into P4.
I expected Ellis to be fast. Magic Ellis had a little trouble getting around Corbin earlier. He's done that. He's closing in on the back of Kundinger. Coming quick. Not a lot of battling going up in front of him. Gerard, Smith, and McGarvey just putting the laps.
You know, riding on board with Ellis, though, that car looks really unsteady. Watching him, you saw it at the wheel. Ever since we hopped on board, he has really been had to catch it in a number of spots.
Yeah, I think he's learning it right now. Remember, he had that late start. I think he's getting a feel for what's going on. Not only track-wise, weather-wise as well.
That's a good point. We don't know how many of these drivers have been caught out by the weather. It's currently about 10:45 in the morning here, virtual standard time in the UK. So sun just going up, track getting hotter as they go. And it's been getting hotter since qualifying, where it was about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Let's go back up to P1 here because DeVries is really being hounded now by Andre. Andre wants this spot back. They work underneath that blue car of Leif Peterson. They get that negotiated. That's DeVries trying to find his way around. Now that's Dallas Pataska up there. DeVries gets a good run. Right behind him, though, is Andre.
Interesting patience being shown by Andre. He had a run out of the Abbey chicane, but he elected not to make it 3 wide through bridge. Probably smart this early in the race. Oh, he's got a great run coming out of Woodcote, but he loses speed once again. Whatever DeVries has done with that setup, it is keeping him safe on the straights.
Holy moly, is that with Cy Andre putting his nose right in the gearbox of DeVries. They're okay. Now here comes Alex Simonic they're trying to work on. There goes DeVries. Oh, it looks like Andre's going to get stuck behind him. Yeah, that's going to cost him to go around the outside.
The way that they carry that speed through those corners, they sliced through there so much quicker than the GTEs, but it helped DeVries that little bit more. He's gapped him to about 0.7 of a second.
Ryan Huff was able to get back onto the back bumper of Stephen McGarvey and Leif Peterson. Now they're making their way into Stowe after the help of the LMP1 traffic they had to overcome. Now making the run towards Vale. Leif Peterson doing an excellent job of holding off McGarvey and Huff. McGarvey, though, looks to the inside. Here comes the LMP1 car, though, of Mark Wilson. This is going to change things up just a little bit for these drivers. They both hug the inside line of Club Corner now as they make the way up towards Abbey. Mike Young now is able to just quickly go to the outside of both of them towards the Abbey chicane to go.
We've had a problem in LMP2. It's Carter Kundinger losing multiple positions. Looks like this happened into the Maggots and Beckett sequence. Let's get a replay on this.
He was being pressured by Ellis. Boy, he just makes a mistake. Doesn't hit anything, goes off into the beach, gets turned around okay.
We could even see Ellis behind him when we came into that shot, have a big wobble coming out of Luffield. They're weaving their way through the GTEs. It almost looks like he just took a big chunk of curb. Whoa, and he's already off coming through Cops there. That certainly didn't help the car. And then right here, yeah, once again, just car bouncing around and around the tail goes.
Joe, I think you called it. I just don't see any way that Alex racing the way that he's doing right now gets that car to the end in one piece. He is really struggling. He's up into 4th now.
Watch him a little bit more here. Yeah.
He has some interesting racing lines and he's really sawing on the wheel.
Not the way you want to start this thing off as we ride on board. This is a fast corner here through Cops. Looked a little bit steadier than some of his other attempts through other corners. Now, what about Maggots and Beckett's? More slow as they go. Looks a little bit better than the way Kundinger took it last time. Maybe he's getting a handle on it now. A little bit of a correction coming out.
And he's closing in a bit on your points leader, Scott McGarvey, in 3rd. So, good job, Alex.
Worth a mention, actually, since we're looking at the front of the LMP2s, Jason Gerard has been leading yet again. Now, Smith has kept him in tow. He's about a second behind, but this seems very par for the course. Gerard just kind of controlling the race.
Yeah, he's comfortable. That's kind of what he does.
Few more slower GTE cars. Robert Sklanka that he's going to overtake there. Then he's got McLeish and Owens ahead of him, catching them right at a difficult spot, timing it just right down into Priory. And now he's got the GTE of Owens blinking in front of him. That certainly doesn't help the situation.
Taking a wide line there is Matt Owens as he lets the 2 leaders go by, Gerard and Smith. Won't be long, though. Coming up behind him is Scott McGarvey. McGarvey in a hurry to get to the leaders and also in a hurry to stay ahead of Ellis, who's coming quick. Boy.
Back at Smith now.
Joe, when we were talking about Ellis, we were watching him go around. The interval was 2.5 seconds. It's down to 2 seconds now. Now, some of that may have to do with traffic.
Yeah, I'd say so with what we saw, them dealing with Priory, Brooklands, and Luffield, and having to squeeze their way around a lot of GTE cars. And actually, we might want to go up to the overall leaders because Cy Andra has been right on the back of De Vries. I've been keeping half an eye on this myself. He hasn't been able to make an attack, but boy, he's stuck to the gearbox.
Yeah, Andra's really annoying those commentators. He's right there. I had to keep going back and back as he's ready to make a move in a second. This could be interesting now as they come up behind Dale Green, James Stacy. Stacy's had a couple off tracks already, so be careful, boys.
We're going to catch him at a good spot here down the hangar straight. One's going to get by, though, and I don't think 2. Cy Andra, oh, late move. And great heads up by James Stacy to hold to the outside. Now through Vale. Ooh, they got a car off in front of them. That was David Sockrider having a little bit of a problem. Both cars going to stay off to the right side. The way they slice and dice through these cars, and even past the HPDs, which are not slow vehicles by any means. We were watching Corbin and Kundinger a little bit ago, and certainly haven't got away from each other very much. They're also dealing with the lap traffic.
These are 2 cars who both qualified farther up and had trouble. Corbin, that early on, we saw him get together with Alex Ellis, and then Kundinger had that off that we documented, and as the racing gods so often do, puts them right next to each other. They can work through the field together.
Right on the nose of the Wyvern Racing red car of Carter Kundinger onto the hangar straight, giving you a great sense of the speed as it builds up 150, 160 miles an hour, 170, and then they brake as they hit Stowe, swing it around this blind corner. More traffic coming up ahead of them. They've got Robert Canchin up next now that they hit Vale.
You have Ross Booth leading the way in 11th. Ross probably the slower of the 3 cars right now as they work their way around Robert Canchin. Canchin's going to stay to the outside, let them go by. Nope, he gets to the apex first. They'll have to wait.
It's going to give a nice little handy gap to the car ahead. Oh! Corbin had to get out of that one. Here comes Carter Kundinger taking advantage of it. 1 position for him down, up to 7th now. But he slips a little bit wide trying to get by Canchin. Holds on to the spot as now he's on the other side, inside of Luffield, through the GTE car. Finally, Canchin can safely let him go ahead. That gives a handy little gap to Ross Booth now.
Yep.
2 seconds ahead of Kundinger.
Joe, what we just saw there's one of the hardest things.
Sorry, who was that spinning across the track?
Kundinger.
It was Kundinger again.
Right in front of Scott Corbin. Doesn't hit a thing.
And very similarly to what we saw earlier, a car just going wide at Cops off into the AstroTurf, just suddenly turns it around.
And I think Andra has just made a pass on De Vries. We might want to get this on replay. It just happened. It was all traffic.
As we come back live, we can see Andra now in first. We've got that on replay. It was coming down the hangar straight. They were caught behind the cars of Corbin and O'Keefe, actually. Andra set that up perfectly. And then went the long way around for good measure.
And now when we come back live, he's started to drive away. I think he's got that battery situation figured out.
That certainly seems like it. Meanwhile, we've ignored the GTEs for a little while, and sounds like things are heating up on the podium front.
Yes, we did. As Scott McGarvey, Stephen McGarvey goes off course and Scott's corner right now. Stephen McGarvey, the first teammate.
I'm going to steal it from you for a second. Billy Smith is our leader in GT and LMP2s right now. Not sure what happened to Gerard, but if we can get a replay of it, it just happened. He just got into the back of Dean Mole and lost the position to Gerard. Yes, Billy Smith. Now let's see if we can figure out where this is. If he's the leader, hopefully we'll catch it. It happened right when I was talking. The pass was made on Gerard.
It was in the first corner that he got into the car. Now, how did he get ahead of Gerard?
I'm looking right now to find out when we watch that replay. See Gerard made a mistake or something.
Yeah, here it is. You'll see right here. The GTE car ahead is the one he's thinking he's going to be able to clear. Makes the late move, presents the car, but that Ford wasn't looking close enough. Now, it doesn't look like he got too much damage from it, but definitely lost 2 positions as McGarvey leads and Gerard is now in second.
And
but
just
not
to report
by much.
How that pass was made is Gerard got tied up behind the car of Shane Hunter, was lap traffic, and Billy Smith took advantage of it.
Let's stick with this. McGarvey is absolutely being hounded by Jason Gerard. And again, these are 2 of our championship players, so there's big indications here with so little points separating the 2 of them. They're going to have more traffic to deal with up ahead. They've got Peterson and Pataska who are in a battle for that 3rd spot.
Now look right behind. We got those top 3 in LMP2 battling. This is going to bring Alex Ellis even a little bit more as we see the LMP2 cars get by Leif Peterson in the 4th. 3 wide between those. That's not going to work.
Yeah, McGarvey got held up. Gerard took advantage of it. He is now our leader, but they've got Pataska up ahead of him. Gerard is going to be able to slip through, but McGarvey gets the worst of it, and that puts him under threat from Billy Smith now. He tries to pull into the slipstream. It's going to be a side-by-side battle as they've got the LMP1 leader coming up behind them just to complicate it all the more. Smith going the long way around through Stowe, and I think he's able to make it stick, or is he? This is Cy Andra boxed in behind them. Scott McGarvey has to let him through as Jason De Vries now wants to get in the mix because he wants to take away the lead in LMP1.
Right behind De Vries is Alex Ellis. This is a craziness going on right now. They get it sorted out a bit.
The one that helped the most was Jason Gerard. Pulled the gap of about a little over a second over Billy Smith. Now into 2nd place. McGarvey's into 3rd. Andra still holds 1st in LMP1. De Vries giving chase. Take your breath. Yeah. It got hectic very, very quickly. And the drivers have to deal with so much more. De Vries still caught up behind the likes of Gerard. He has lost a big chunk to Andra out of that.
And so for the LMP2s, it goes right back to the way it was before all the nonsense started. Gerard, Smith, and McGarvey racing 1, 2, 3.
Well, we were trying to take a glance at what was going on in the GTEs, so why don't we jump back there? Taylor, you said you had a battle between 3rd and 5th, I believe.
We had a battle between Pataska and Peterson. That's kind of separated up a little bit right now, but it looks like McGarvey has a little bit of company right now as he has the LMP2 cars of Booth and Rosenbaum coming by right now. They're now making the run into the hangar straight, but this brings back Ryan Huff. These 2 have been battling most of the race here today as it's been a great battle. The Ford GT of Ryan Huff now trying to close into the back end of that Ferrari as they head down towards the hangar straight into Stowe. I tell you what, though, I've been watching Huff. He's been braking quite later into Stowe compared to McGarvey, and actually braking a lot later in several corners, especially in the Maggott and Beckett sequence.
little bit of traffic behind them. This is Kevin O'Keefe, who is in a battle for position with Scott Corbin. He dutifully waits behind the two GTE cars as they come off of club. Is this going to make things erupt, though? Because it looks like he's slightly slow off that long right-hander.
Problems up ahead in Abbey. That looks like an LMP2 car of Ross Booth went way off course and into the grass.
That's going to give him a slowdown.
He was trying to get around Rosen Sheldonblom in the blue machine. They got together.
I think you made Sheldon Rosen.
Welcome to 2019.
Yeah, oh, wow. Some good contact between them. Well, not good on their parts, but there could be some damage to either the suspension or the aerodynamics of the car. Let's watch it one more time here from above. Rosen Sheldonbaum might be my new favorite goof from you, Bill, I have to say.
Oh, mercy.
All right, they keep the cars going and get it back on track, but you can see O'Keefe is now the one on Booth. So we got a three-way fight for 6 here. Booth gets himself a nice little run onto the hangar straight as they go by Leif Peterson. That's our LMP1 third-place driver, Mark Wilson, or fourth-place driver, trying to work his way through. Going to split the likes of Corbin and O'Keefe temporarily. They hit Vale, unfortunately. Whoa, as Wilson nearly gets into the back of O'Keefe. Still got to be careful. And with all this action happening, we have not yet mentioned we are well within the pit window for all three classes at this point.
Oh, I hope they pit. My cardiologist would like them to pit and break this up. This is Jeez.
This has been a good one. Sayandra just sets the fastest lap from first up at the top of the field. He stretches that out to 1.7 seconds now over Jason DeVries back there in second. Andra not running away with this one by any stretch of the imagination. Those two, Cy and Jason, have kept each other on their toes for sure. Traffic has not allowed them to separate by very much. I want to say they've been within about 2 seconds of each other this entire race long.
Well, early on, Taylor and I were whispering to each other that all the action was in the GTEs because the LMP 1s and 2s were just so organized, and boy, that all switched up.
Absolutely. Simonic's been leading by about 3 seconds over the Comet down there in the GTEs. So the early prediction of the GTE being a rout is starting to come true, but that could yet all change. We've seen in the Autobahn series that you can't bank on anything. Battle and the LMP2s is certainly not given way. Gerard only less than a second ahead of Smith, less than a second ahead of McGarvey. Smith really the one that needs to score maximum points here today if he wants to try and get in the mix with Gerard and McGarvey in the championship hunt.
But look, just 9/10 of a second off the tail of Scott McGarvey is Alex Ellis. We still have 34 minutes of racing to go. There's still plenty of time for Ellis to show us what he's got. He might be one of the fastest cars out there. When it comes to traffic, he is fearless. He'll just go through what he doesn't really care. He's coming through.
Yeah, this Canadian has certainly made up for that bad qualifying and being able to survive an ill-handling car as they work their way down the hangar straight. I almost wonder if maybe he set the car up for hotter temperatures because it's warmed up a little bit. It's now 91 degrees and he's looking a little bit smoother. So hard to tell if that's just getting used to the car or if the weather is starting to play into his hands.
It is with this day-night transition now. When I commentate, I need to dress in layers and bring sunglasses with me because the clouds will come in. It'll cool off a little bit. Clouds blow away. It gets really sunny.
You can see they're now having to deal with a few more GTE cars. Matt Owen ahead of them, going to split our leaders as Billy Smith and Jason Gerard get through, but it takes the likes of Scott McGarvey and Alex Ellis.
Here
A little
comes
bit
Ellis.
more Ellis. He is on the
Oh.
charge, dives his nose in down into primary, but can't quite pull it off.
Oh, Ellis drives like he's given a shoe shine. The car just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
What happened there? Very slow off of Luffield. I don't think that was a slowdown penalty, but certainly the car was chugging off the corner. That was unusual. Oh, battle for the lead once again, and De Vries has got it before we can even get there. And it was almost the same story all over again, down the hanger straight. We got the replay.
Really weird, as if Andre doesn't like to do lap traffic here. He just kind of just surrenders it.
It almost looks like a little bit like the battery again, though. You can see he got around him, and then Andre tries to come back at him, coming into Stowe, but just doesn't have the grip on the outside. Still within 0.3 of each other. Oh, go ahead.
Here's a quick thought. Maybe that could be possibility is maybe Andre, as stock riders coming into the pit stop. But one thing I wanted to bring out maybe is Andre might not have the battery fully charged enough to able to use, especially down the hanger straight, unlike we see with De Vries. De Vries may be able to charge it a little bit more to where he get that.
It's to where he gets a little bit more speed, right?
Most definitely. That's what that battery is used for, to help get that more extra speed, that extra boost, especially down this hanger straight, of course, as we see them going down right now. And actually, you see De Vries pulling away just a little bit down the hanger straight, but then we see Andre close right back up onto him as they make their way through the slower sections of the track.
It certainly seems like Cy is still coming to terms with everything that this car offers. As a little wide mid-corner there for Jason. Maybe he was trying to deal with the car of Santana. They both get by, and Andre isn't able to use it. They've stretched themselves to about 6.5 seconds over third place Mike Young. Looks like another podium is in order for Mike if things continue the way they are, but unfortunately it's not going to be another second place.
Let's go to 8th overall as Alex Ellis powers around the outside of Scott McGarvey. That's for third place in LMP2. Here he comes.
Let's take a look at that replay. Just had a nice little toe down the hanger straight. And then I tell you what, this is one of the gutsiest moves I've seen in a while. Makes the likes of Scott McGarvey look silly, which is not easy. And just says, thank you, goodbye.
.2 seconds to get up to Billy Smith, who's racing in second, just a car length behind Gerard.
I think that's doable. I think the way that Ellis has been running, he is looking higher than just simply a podium. Wonder if he could even potentially fight for the win. Because he's, I mean, it's only 7 more tenths up to Gerard, so that's 4 seconds up to the leader. Still got half the race left to go. Mark Wilson comes into pit. TMC Racing driver looks for his stall as the rest of the LMP1s continue on. De Vries really having to hustle because Dallas Pataska holding him up brings Andre back onto the rear wing of that LMP1 car. They work through Brooklands, now up to Luffield. And Andre, that number 24, just making sure that Deep Freeze has to work for it. They both come into pit.
Just past the halfway mark.
So what's Young going to do? Young is in. As Wilson was in last lap, makes me think that they're a little bit tight on the fuel strategy here. Lionel Duprat still got a ways to go before we can see if he intends to pit on this lap. Part of the question is, what are the pit times going to look like with how close Andre and De Vries were waiting to see them come out. You can see that Young has hit his stall. Still stationary, both of them. Now they both go. And DeVries is going to beat Andra out. And in fact, he actually pulls quite a gap on Andra compared to how they were before.
I don't think that's going to worry Cy too much.
Every little bit helps, though. DePratt does, in fact, pit. That, to me, says it is relatively tight on fuel strategy. And we are getting a few of our LMP2s entering. O'Keefe and Kundinger follow each other in. Still a lot left in that field to take their scheduled stop. Only 4 cars so far have hit pit lane. Auburn Racing Red's Kundinger getting his car filled up. Probably getting, actually probably not getting fresh tires, as I believe they cannot take tires and fuel at the same time. Kundinger going to be beaten out by O'Keefe. Stacy pits. We saw him entering behind them. We're right on board, though, with Carter Kundinger coming immediately into the back and forth of the Maggots-Beckett sequence.
Carter back racing. What would that be there? I can't see that. 8th in class?
Correct.
Yep. Okay,
Gerard
Billy
pits,
Smith.
though.
Yeah, Billy, they're all pitting. Smith, Gerard, Ellis all coming in together. And by the way, Ellis had got to within a second of Billy Smith. Ellis was actually closer to Smith than Smith was to Gerard.
With how hard Ellis was running, though, I wonder if he was burning up more fuel. I mean, legitimate question.
Yep.
Could he be sitting in his pit stall that little bit longer than Smith?
Might be a thirstier stop indeed.
McGarvey and Rosenbaum continue. Ross Booth does not pit this time by. Jason Gerard finishes his stop. Billy Smith is now out of his stall. Ooh, yeah, Ellis. Oh, in fact, this cannot be fuel. This has got to be damage repair or something.
Well, because of his qualifying, his pit box was actually in another zip code, but now he's come out. But yeah, he's way not sure what happened there. Maybe a speeding penalty.
Well, you know, I was wondering that. If he did, he had a very, very quick pit stop, because that would mark it at about 16 seconds, would be a second quicker than Jason Gerard. Hard to say. It certainly has the signs of being a speeding penalty.
Well, either way, he's got more work in front of him now.
Huff now pits as well.
Yeah, Ryan Huff deciding to come down pit road in that Ford GT, running a really good race all night here tonight at Silverstone, battling it out with Stephen McGarvey for that 5th position. Mike decided to come in early to try and see if he can leapfrog McGarvey. Another driver who was also pitted a few laps earlier was Kevin Santana, and the 903 Ferrari came down pit road to complete his stop. So those are our 2 of our GTE drivers so far who has pitted.
No real big GTE names, though, coming in so far, right, Taylor?
Not at the moment. We probably won't see them coming by for another lap or 2. Possibly some might try to pit early, but I don't see anybody coming down pit road at this moment, as I'm keeping an eye right now on our leader, Alex Simonic. He's now making his way through the Luffield and Brooklyn section of the track.
Taking a look at our leader there in the GTEs, leading Bradley Haley by nearly 6 seconds. Looks like one of his fellow GTEs, Matt Owen's going to go in, but Simonic's going to stay out.
Along with Bradley Haley, Dale Green also decides to come down pit road as well. Let's see what Dallas Pataska does. He is now coming out, heading towards Woodcote. Nope, decides to stay put. By the looks of it, all the rest of our major front runners in the GTE class will be staying out for another lap here.
I'm looking through those LMP2s because obviously with a long stop for Alex Ellis, trying to figure out where he is going to wind up as we got a battle here on screen between O'Keefe and Kundinger. This is for currently 7th. They are waiting for Ross Booth to still pit.
Ross Booth out in front, baby. Run it till it's dry, Ross.
Well, let's see if he continues on this time by. He's coming up to the pit entry, and he does indeed pit. That will be the last of our LMP2s other than Chris Pence to take their scheduled stop in that LMP2 class. That'll hand the lead back to Jason Gerard, who's got quite a handy gap over Billy Smith at this point. Almost a little over 4 seconds between Gerard and Smith. Boy, ever since the pit stops, that 02 has turned the afterburners on. Ross Booth will be behind Alex Ellis. So the good news for Ellis is even though he lost a lot of his effort to try and chase down the leaders, he only lost those positions and nothing more. So those 10 seconds to gain are doable, but certainly going to be a little bit frustrating.
Well, he had gotten around McGarvey, so he lost that spot to McGarvey.
Well, yes, I was saying that he didn't lose positions, the drivers behind that at least. Yeah.
Was I not listening? Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
I was multitasking here.
I know, we always are. Meanwhile, GTE pit stops happening. Leif Peterson is in. Stephen McGarvey is in. Simonic continues on. Haley keeps going. Paul Lindsay is going to keep going as well.
Yeah, along with Dave Hill, but this is a major pit stop for McGarvey and for Peterson. This is going to see what happens if they're able to keep in front of Ryan Huff and Dean Moll. Those two have already made their pit stop. Still right now, Lee Peterson and McGarvey have gotten out. Where is Ryan Huff on the track? Looking for him right now. Here he comes on the front straightaway. I think he might be able to get right to the back bumper of them. He's now going through Copse. McGarvey's just now coming out of pit road, and he's able to still hold on to that position. So a really good strategy call that we see from McGarvey and Peterson to keep Ryan Huff behind them.
Yep, held that gap at about 2.5 seconds between the number 1 and the number 41. Still waiting on about half of our GTE field to come in. So while we wait for that, let's glance at the LMP1 lead once again. Andra versus De Vries just won't quit, and it's a whole 13 seconds ahead of third place. They are streaking away from the rest of the field.
Not much is going to happen until they come up on some lap traffic, and then let's not take another shot at this one. Coming up behind Sheldon Rosenbaum, they managed to negotiate that okay.
Yep, not going to be much of a problem. Down the hanger straight. Up next is going to be Matt Owens. Looks like Pataska has elected to come in for his stop.
Dallas Pataska, the third place in that Ford GT. It's been a really good night for the Blue Oval. All top three is Ford.
Oh,
Booth comes in as well.
This is his second stop, I'm pretty sure. Isn't it on Ross Booth?
Booth just had an off. Yeah, he just got together with Tim McLeish.
Oh, yep. We've got the replay here. It's coming out of Chapel. He tries to cut the course a little bit, and that unsettles the car, slams into the side of McLeish.
That's Carter Kundinger right behind him that makes that move to the left. Nice job, Carter.
That was worth a tow for him because apparently he hit that suspension hard enough that he just could not continue on. Disappointing for Ross Booth today.
No fast repairs anymore in this series. Tip of the hat to the series organizers for that.
Syandra continues to stalk Jason De Vries.
Ooh, trouble we have. Bradley Haley is spun. Is able to get the car back over. This is just a few seconds. This is in Luffield. And now he's going to decide to bring it down pit road. Just gets the car really loose.
Tires have been working hard for more than half the race. As we watch him, that's through Priory into Brooklands. And then apparently Luffield was just too much. The tires cry enough. And he saves it from going completely around, but that's quite a bit of time lost there, getting it back to the black stuff.
And he makes the good strategy call to come down pit road to try and get some fresh rubber on. He's just now, I believe, exiting pit road. Yep. And it looks like he's going to try to keep pulling away. No damage to the car, thank goodness, for Bradley Haley. Let's see what he's able to do. Even with that bit of time he lost spinning, he may be able to recover. But I think he might. Yep, he went off the wrong pit road exit.
Dave Hill is in the pit. I think they're allowed to use either pit exit, from what I understand. I'll check if there's any race-specific rules. You can see Dave Hill in. Pataska sidles up behind Haley after that stop. Actually, a little bit behind, I should say. Simonic currently still our leader, though, as waiting for the timing to come down. Oh, actually, that won't come down because we're waiting on Simonic to yet pit.
Yeah, right now the gap is over 40 seconds. Yeah,
that's
we're
because
looking at about...
There he goes. Now he comes in. I don't think Haley's going to jump him, though, unless we missed something major with Simonic. This is, although he locked his tires up there after the cones. Ooh.
This could be a little interesting. We'll have to keep an eye, see how long he's on pit road. Maybe a possibility of a speeding penalty.
And this is what Haley needs. Haley needs to start getting maximum points race after race to get in this hunt. He's something around like 50 points behind, I want to say, our overall leader in the championship. Simonic now heading out.
Pit stop with an 11.9 stop compared to Bradley Haley with an 11.5, but I don't see
speeding.
Haley only 23 back, but Simonic, though, Joe, you had the 50 right. He's 50 back, so there's a guy also that needs to start. Well, he needs more wins. He's got plenty of them already.
Ah, that's what it was. So Alex Simonic comes out ahead, and as the clock finally starts to catch up, that is actually a very large gap between the 250 and the 428. It is 12 and a half seconds. The good news for Bradley is that he has got himself a handy gap back to third place, Pataska, as well.
And there is more good news. Paul Darling is not here. Oh My had to miss, and Stephen McGarvey's behind all these guys. So it's a good day for both of those drivers. And we're talking about Haley and Simonic.
You know, I'm a bit surprised at McGarvey, actually. The number one car has been nowhere today. He's fifth and just hasn't really had pace on any of the top drivers.
No, and that's quite surprising to see from McGarvey. McGarvey is, though, someone who's been quite consistent, though, this season, and able to just keep the car, not push the car off. If it's a top 5 car, he's going to run in that top 5. If it's a top 3, he's going to keep it there. But even if it's something that is a top 10 car, McGarvey is someone who's going to just make sure he runs laps, runs it clean, and bring home the checker flag as soon as possible.
15 minutes left to go on the clock, and another interesting development is I think this is one of the biggest gaps we've seen between our top 2 overall. Jason DeVries has pulled out to about a second and a half over Cy Andra at this point. That's very minimal in terms of safety for this series, but in terms of this race specifically, that's a lot bigger than we've seen before.
DeVries might have had that big of a gap when he came out of pit lane. Remember we talked about maybe a little bigger than that. Andra was able to run that down, but as of this last maybe lap and a half, DeVries has really opened it up on Cy.
And the rest of the LMP1 field, if you've been wondering, Mike Young currently running back in third, going to get himself a nice quiet podium most likely. Mark Wilson's been in fourth, and then Lionel Duprat is actually not too far behind Wilson. There is a mere 1.5 seconds from fourth to fifth, so going to be a battle of pride here, not to be the last LMP1 to come home.
Bradley Haley spun again in Stowe.
Ooh,
and Carter Kundiger.
Oh. Well, that's Alex Ellis. Ellis who actually gets turned around, trying to avoid him. Let's watch to see what caused Haley to go around.
I think it was the same thing. Oh, looks like Ellis almost got loose again behind Haley. But I think it's the same thing that happened to him earlier before his pit stop.
Yeah, the rear of the car just starts to go. Let's watch from... it was Ellis that we need to see the view here that went off. As we ride on board with Kumdinger. Yep. Looks like we'll have to back it up a little bit. Poor Alex Ellis was certainly on the way to have a nice finish, and he's still going to have a very good finish compared to qualifying in fourth, but podium could have been on the cards. Oh, Andra, is it... What is going on with Andra? He's in the pits again.
Andra is in the pits again. It just happened.
I'm just checking to see if he hit something or if maybe he underfueled it. That would explain a loss of pace. Oh, he did hit something. It was about a minute ago on his way out of Abbey. And it's a hard hit. I'm going to try and find it here.
Oh my, yes, this is a... We'll drum back one more time. It's right on this lap, although it was a while back because he was in the pits for a while. You're so close. That's him pulling in. If you can go back one more shot from that, you got it. There we go.
No, it's still after. Gotta go farther back than that. Well, it was
Cy
coming...
is happy. Yeah, Cy doesn't need to see that on the broadcast.
No, well, let's just go back live as Andra took a very, very hard knock. So that gives second to Mike Young again. He just loves this position. He could yet still take a win if something happens to De Vries, as he's 21 seconds back, so he's certainly not going to run him down in the final 11 minutes.
I'll tell you right now, Lionel Duprat racing in fifth gets around Mark Wilson, which he's going to do pretty soon. And then Cy Andra has to call it a day with that damaged car. And Lionel Duprat's going to get that podium that I called for early on. Come on, Lionel. Yeah, Andra brought the car back out. It looks...
Wilson's right behind him, to be fair. And Duprat's with him.
Yeah, here they come.
So it could yet go from bad to worse, depending on what kind of condition Cy's car is in. He could find himself all the way down to fifth. At this point, it is now damage limitation he's got to worry about.
That's Dean Mole and James Stacy that they both get around. So now you got the three cars racing for position. Andra, Wilson, and as soon as Duprat gets around Hill, he'll be in there as well. There he goes.
Got a little bit of lap traffic. Kevin Santana had a very bad spot, actually. Force Andra. He's trying to wait patiently. Looked around the outside. And thankfully, that gives him a little bit of a gap from Mark Wilson, who does not take it very well. And there goes Lionel Duprat up to fourth. And then Duprat himself finds a little bit of traffic in the form of Paul Lindsay. Lindsay almost goes off trying to stay out of their way. Wilson comes back at him, dives it to the inside, down into Vale. They make contact. Lindsay almost gets into the back of him. Mark Wilson keeps it going, but Lionel Duprat holds on to fourth.
2.8 seconds behind a podium, Lionel. Go, baby.
I think Andre's got his feet underneath him now. He is a whole 3 seconds up. And all this, trying to check to see if we've missed anything with the other cars. Oh, Ellis is on his lid. Alex Ellis coming out of the first corner. Hops, bites another one. And this is, actually, isn't this what happened to Ellis at the very start of the race? Yep. He goes wide. He catches the AstroTurf, but this time it does not work out as well. He overcorrects the car. Oof. And there's nothing you could do to come back from that one.
I think one of the commentators might have said that he wasn't going to get that car home safely.
Yeah, that number 5 with 8 minutes to go. He's going to have a heap of repairs to do. clock continues to tick down, and Silverstone continues to claim victims. You are not safe until that checkered flag falls.
You might be wondering about LMP2s, all that excitement we saw. Well, that all went away after the pit stop. Gerard, Smith, McGarvey. Now, Alex Ellis has had trouble, so that moves Sheldon Rosenbaum up into 4th. Kevin O'Keefe looking for a top 5 now.
GTEM starting to heat up. Again, that is its own championship. Taylor, you've been keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, Kevin Santana's closing back up onto the back bumper of Paul Lindsay. It was about 2 seconds, now about down to a little over 1 second as they're making their way into Abbey. Have a little bit of LMP2 traffic closing in behind Santana, as that looks like David Stockrider gets loose behind them as they're making their way under bridge. But right now, that might have gave the chance for Lindsay to start pulling away just a little bit as Santana's trying to get out of the way of the LMP2 cars. But these two have been battling, and this is for the GTEM championship. And by looking at the points, it was Lindsay who had an 18-point lead over Santana. And this has been an excellent battle all season to watch these two all race. Still, it is Lindsay holding on to the position, and quite remarkably has been holding ahead of Santana the entire race.
Extend that points lead if he can keep this up. It won't be by a lot, but certainly will be frustrating for Santana to be so close yet so far away. And Bill, it sounds like things have swapped around again.
And then swapped around again. Mark Wilson had got around Lionel Duprat, and then before we get to him, Lionel said, nope, I want 4th position back, so he goes around Wilson again. They continue to swap spots. It's been a fun battle back there as they come up behind Bradley Haley now in that yellow machine, or I guess it's green. Citrus flavored. Let's cover all my
yeah,
bases.
it's a lime green. You're okay. Close enough. But credit to Lionel Duprat. I didn't think that he would be much of a factor this race, and he's shown to come back and grabbed himself a position. Could have maybe tried to get something from Andra, but he's already 8 seconds up the road. Now down to 5 minutes left to go. De Vries, your leader in the LMP1's 23 seconds back to the next car. He is looking very, very handy there. And I tell you what, with the lead that he has got in the championship, that's just going to extend it all the more. Almost 30 points between himself and Andra. This will hurt. Our leader in the LMP2s, Jason Girard, also looking to retake the points lead himself, as it was very close between himself and McGarvey. Scott, unfortunately, not even going to finish second today, so I think that will indeed bump Jason Girard back up to P1.
Give a tip of the hat to Billy Smith, though. He's behind him by 2 seconds, but his pace has been good. The pit stop cost him and maybe some traffic issues, but pace-wise, Billy Smith, very respectable. If Jason Girard were to have a mistake, make one little mistake, Billy Smith's right there to make him to seal it.
Well, we just watched on screen Smith sliding it through cops. He's got to be careful with the way that bit Ellis multiple times. He could lose that second place if he keeps doing that. Alex Simonic, though, this is going to be an interesting one here, Taylor. If he gets another win, that's going to help him in the points. But, I mean, is a championship possible for this 250? He keeps racking up the wins, but he just keeps shooting himself in his own foot.
If he can stop shooting himself in his own foot, I think he might be able to pull out the championship. He has to win, though, the next 3 races after this, as well as win here tonight. Even though we have a few minutes left in the race, anything can happen. But if he wins tonight, as well as the rest of the season, I think this is Simonic's championship to lose. Now, another factor to throw in is that of McGarvey. We know he is being consistent right now. Currently, McGarvey is running in the 5th position as our points leader. This is a good finish for him as well in order to make sure he tries to hold on. But if Simonic keeps on winning the races like we see here tonight, he could also be able to pull away from McGarvey and pass him for the championship.
So Chris Pence has taken yet another stop, and I want to say this is... No, it's not his third. I think it's his second, potentially. He did take a very late stop before, and I don't actually see him have anything major go wrong. I'm guessing it might have actually been a hardware failure because he just went straight through a corner and then pulled off and called it a day. A little bit of a battle starting to brew up at the top of LMP2. Smith has gained a couple tenths on Gerard.
Gerard's a bit of a showman. He might just want to make sure we get a little bit of excitement at the end, but absolutely. Billy Smith diving down in there underneath Kevin Santana. That interval now, 0.7 of a second. It was 2 seconds ago when I started to talk about Smith's pace.
A little bit of traffic certainly going to interrupt things. This is Paul Lindsay. Remember, still in that battle with Santana. Stays out of the way, and they're not going to interrupt that too badly. Smith now falls back to about a second. 0.2 lost on Jason Gerard. He's certainly going to have to use every little trick in the book to try and get Jason to give up that spot. If I know Jason, he is not going to let much pry P1 away, especially with less than 2 minutes to go on the clock.
These guys are veterans. They have been on the track together for many, many races. Not always in the same class.
We'll be getting the white flag this time by right on board with our LMP2 leader, but Jason DeVries, who actually just lapped Lionel Duprat, is coming around to get that white flag and just a few more corners.
Well, Joe, I did lead commentary on one of these broadcasts, and we thought the white flag was coming out, and they had to go around one more time, and people started running out of fuel. So don't count your white flags before they're waved. All right.
We're certain on this one. They're running about 1.5 minute laps. We've got just about a minute left, so white flag indeed is coming out for Jason DeVries. Key is to see if they cross the line where it's close to the lap time, though.
Sure, that's easy enough to say now. Somebody should have told me that before I was doing lead. Here he comes.
Yeah, 28 seconds over Mike Young. Boy, the numbers never always, or don't always tell the tale. That was Sheldon Rosenbaum off track that we saw there. Gets it going once again, but the numbers don't always tell the tale, Bill. If someone were to look at this one and say, wow, a 30-second gap from first to second, you'd think this was an easy cruise for Jason, but boy, was it anything but.
And in contrast to that, Gerard's going to finish about a second ahead of Billy Smith, and it really wasn't that close.
Right on board with Deep Freeze. Puts another lap on Rutgers Kev there. Slices his way through the Abbey chicane. He's got to be well aware of the big gap that he's got at this point. Now into Priory. Doesn't have to push it very hard through Brooklands. Just Luffield yet to go. That yellow and black car is leading this championship for good reason.
Go to LMP2 now.
We have to stay with this because the win going to Jason DeVries as he crossed the line. Let's go to LMP2.
And they get together. They touch. And Smith gets it straight now. Gerard's just going to keep going.
Oof. Big development there. Scott McGarvey not close enough to take advantage. Billy Smith knew he was going to have limited options to get the win. How damaged is each car? Can Jason Gerard limp it home? Can Billy Smith limp it home now? And actually, where is Simonik? Simonik's going to take the win right now, actually. GTE driver Alex Simonik takes the win in that slowest class. Let's jump back to Jason Gerard.
Looks like he's got it worked out as he's working through the technical section now. Just a few more corners to go. He's got about almost 3 seconds on Smith.
I think he survived the impact there. So, some sudden doubt at the very end. I said you have to wait until the checkered flag to know how things are going to wind up. Jason Gerard is learning that the hard way. He is going to take the win over Billy Smith here at Silverstone. And with that, that's going to wrap things up here at the track in the UK for round 11 in the Autobahn series. We're going to go to a quick break here on the GSRC. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, but stick around because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Another exciting finish for an exciting series here in the Autobahn. And after round 11 is done at Silverstone, it is Jason DeVries who takes the victory. And like we said, you can look at that time on there, but it really does not tell you what happened. Mike Young gets second place, but it was Cy Andra who was within 2 seconds of Jason DeVries almost the entire race. An incident from Cy coming through the Abbey chicane caused him to have to take an extra pit stop. He winds up with third. Lionel Duprat had his own little exciting battle. I'm sure he'll be happy to go back and see that he got some screen time out of that. He gets fourth, and Mark Wilson is going to round out the only 5 LMP1s that we had start the race today. Bill?
Top 3 was shuffled up there for a while. When it was all said and done, order was restored. Jason Girard gets the win over Billy Smith. Scott McGarvey gets the final podium spot. How about Kevin O'Keefe? Rutger Kev getting that 4th position. Your top 5 rounded out by Sheldon Rosenbaum. Carter Kundinger was fast, so was Scott Corbin, but unfortunately they're going to finish back there in 6th and 7th. James Stacy and David Sockrider. There are some few more names that you won't see there. Chris Pence, Alex Ellis, Ross Booth, and Ross Booth all had trouble. Okay, what about the GTEs?
Alex Simonic takes home the win, start to finish dominating performance here today. Dallas Pataska, he does break into the podium finally, finishing in 2nd place in class, followed by Bradley Haley, rounding out your podium finish here. Leif Peterson was able to come home 4th in the class, followed by Stephen McGarvey in 5th and Ryan Huff 6th. If we go down a little bit further on, we see that Chris Pence also was able to finish in the 21st position overall, followed by Paul Lindsay, Kevin Santana, Dave Hill, Dean Mole, and then Robert Kansian will finish 26th. Shane Hunter and Tim McLeish will finish 27th and 28th, followed by Mark Kradowski and Matt Owens. Dale Green will come home in the 31st position in class, as well as rounding out the rest of your field will be Alex Ellis, of course, Ross Booth, and Alan Haseback will finish out your 35-car field.
Deep Freeze DeVries joins us in the booth after another victory there to notch on his belt. And Jason, we've been talking about it here at the end of the race, how everybody could look at the stats and it looked like you just blew everybody away, but you absolutely did not. Man, talk about the battle with Cy throughout the race.
I go back to a saying that Jason Dredd once told me when we teamed together, and that was just traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. And you just got to go with the ebbs and flows. And going through the classes, the car is just made for a heck of a race. You could have thrown a blanket over the two of us, and we were just extremely evenly matched the whole race.
It certainly seemed that way. Now, this race started relatively early in the morning and went close to noon here. So the track started to heat up. We saw probably about a 10-degree difference. Did that affect the handling or the way that you wanted to set up this car? And did you set it up for a particular time in the race?
Good question. It absolutely threw us for a loop. I practiced in much cooler weather, and then last night, I thought I had a really good setup, and I got in the car, and I was just absolutely miserable. I was in a foul mood, just throwing everything at the car to try to make it better. And then I learned a bunch of stuff with that, and then tried to go back to some of my experience around the 6-hour race here, where the weather was just really, really, really warm back then. And some of the changes that I did for that race worked really well for me here. And then the race pace was fine. Qualifying, I just got schooled. I need to figure out how to drive faster with that. Side ran a heck of a lap, excuse me. But good race for us.
So this will extend your points lead over Cy Andra. At what point do you relax as far as the championship goes?
You never do, because you always push towards the next goal. You want to make yourself a better driver. And if points are one goal, you push for that. If driving a perfect race is your goal, you push for that. If driving at 100% for an entire hour is your goal, you push for that. So even though you may make one milestone, approach one milestone, you got to raise the bar and always keep the carrot in front of you so you have something to chase, because becoming complacent is absolutely the worst thing that you can do.
Wise words from a racer who has shown quite a bit of speed here in the Autobahn series. Thanks for talking to us, Jason, and congratulations on another win.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
That was Jason DeVries, P1 here in the LMP1s. Up next, looks like Taylor has caught up with Alex Simonik, our winner, 6-time winner here in the GTE class.
Yes, indeed. Alex, again, congratulations on picking up your 6th win. Tell us, how easy was it for you out there on the track today?
In practice, it was pretty hard. I had a setup going, and I had my teammate Matty come in and help me with it. And it got to a point where the track was like 35, 36 degrees, and I just couldn't complete a lap. So he spent the last like 30 minutes of practice just making setup changes, and the win is probably undoable without him. But yeah, as soon as I got the jump on the start, I knew just to watch where Bradley and Dallas were slower in the corners and just try to capitalize on that. And it seemed to work out pretty nicely.
All right, well, with that win, that helps you definitely with the points championships, even though you are 4th, even though you have the most wins. Do you think you could be able to close it out with only 3 races left in the season?
There's only 3 races left. I did not know that. Maybe. Just gotta hope, or not hope, but hope that they, Stephen McGarvey and Paul Darling fall back through the pack for the last 3.
Yes, indeed. Well, hopefully we'll be able to see you next round and be able to continue with this streak. Congratulations again with your win, and we will see you then.
Thank you very much.
That was our winner in the GTEs, Alex Simonik. Bill has caught up with podium finisher in the LMP1, Cy Andra, 3rd place today.
Cy had the pace to win, but not the fortune to win, I guess.
Well, I mean, I had nobody else to blame but me for that. Quite frankly, I looked away for just a second, and the car killed me. Basically, you cannot relax in those cars, especially when you're trying to manage all the battery and the fuel and where Jason was and that sort of stuff.
Let's talk about possibly the battery. You got passed a couple of times by DeVries, and it looks like, if I didn't know better, I'd say you missed a shift, but that wasn't it. Was it just that you were behind traffic, or the car didn't go for you? Or, you know what I'm talking about?
Well, basically, it was kind of a game of managing how much boost you had and knowing that, okay, even if I did try to boost to keep him behind me, it would compromise me on the next straight, and he'd boost by me anyway. So it's kind of it's a mental game of it's kind of restraining yourself. It's like, no, he already has the overtake. just wait for your next opportunity. And I was waiting and waiting, and traffic just was not playing nice. If I could get to his bumper, I think I would have had him.
Do you enjoy that element of not only just the technical part of hitting your apex, but now you have to kind of plan when you use all the toys?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the favorite part of the car for me. I think it just adds that new dimension of racecraft that you need to have in this car. In other cars, you kind of can just go hammer it into the next guy. And honestly, that might be the best way to do it. But in the LMP1s, that's not the case. If you're constantly boosting and boosting and boosting, you'll run out of battery and you just lose more time than you'll ever gain back.
Okay, well, things go south fast, so you only got 3 races to go, but you're still in striking distance. Good luck of the way as you try to run down Deep Freeze for the championship.
Thanks, Soup.
Cy Andre, your third-place finisher, second in points, but he's going to have a hard time getting the crown. Joe?
And we've caught up with second-place finisher in LMP2's Billy Smith, who was basically just hanging out behind Jason for almost the whole race. And, well, then the last lap happened. Tell us about that, Billy.
Yeah, Joe. Jason's already approached me and apologized, but I can't really, say anything but just disappointment in that, I don't know if it was caught early on, but I think exactly the same maneuver to get by Jason, and then I messed up with a lap car, and that was totally my fault, and, they got back by me. So, honestly, I should have, raced a perfect race and then not been in that position, but it kind of is what it is.
Yeah, there's always a lot of what ifs and could have beens in racing. But regardless, this is a nice haul of points, second place. It's not going to allow you to catch Jason, but does allow you to catch Scott a little bit more.
Yeah, and I don't really know where the points are right now, Joe. But it definitely is going to help. I don't know where McGarvey actually finished third, I guess. Yeah, so that'll help out. I think we got 3 races left. I'm not sure how close I am, but that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, you're 11 points. You were 11 points back from Jason going into this, and 15 points behind Scott McGarvey. So I think with 3 rounds to go, you are not out of this fight quite yet. Next round that we're going to is going to be Phillip Island, though, and that is a much shorter lap, and obviously traffic can be a lot trickier there than here. So what are your thoughts? How do you prepare going into that?
I don't really know if you can prepare, honestly. It's just, it's going to be similar. I feel like traffic was pretty crazy here, and obviously it's going to be worse at Phillip Island. It's just one of those things where you got to pick those places with this car. There's some corners where you can really dive in there to pass a GT car, and other times you have to wait and be patient. So it's going to be another one of those races where the traffic's going to really dictate what happens.
So one more before we let you go then. Judging based on what happened here, every driver can always learn something from each race. What do you take away from this one about going forward in attempts to run these guys down in points?
I need to practice more with other cars. It was completely my fault, the turn 1 incident, but so a little bit more patience and planning there, and I guess better understanding with these, with the multi-class, how to pass and how to strategically position myself. That's probably the biggest.
That sounds like a good lesson to take away. So we hope we see you in the fight again for more wins later in the season. Congratulations on a podium.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, guys.
That was Billy Smith, our second place finisher in the LMP2s. That, unfortunately, is going to wrap it up today. I wish we could talk to more people, but it's been a long day for some of us. So, of course, we want to thank the Autobahn Motorcar Group for sponsoring yet another season. And, of course, to John Ulmer and his team of people behind the scenes who help make these races happen. Thanks go out to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Taylor, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can check us out on social media, on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button so that you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. 2 weeks from now, we're going to be going to Phillip Island. That'll be Monday, January 21st, 9:15 p.m. Eastern. We have other races for other upcoming. We have other races on the screen for other series listed, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.